Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel once again. I am Robert Storms, and today I want to talk about Galaxy's Edge because I was finally able to go to Galaxy's Edge. Now, full disclosure, I didn't know I was going. I had no plans to go to Galaxy's Edge. I didn't think I was going to go until at least 2020. I was going to go sort of around February, around wintertime, and kind of enjoy it with the nice weather. But it was a complete surprise. I didn't know I was going until I got there. And I'm going to kind of give my thoughts on it because there's a lot of people talking about it.
Oh, this is a flop. They're cutting hours. It's not Star Wars. It doesn't feel like Star Wars.
I'm going to kind of give my perspective of it as a Star Wars fan that loves all Star Wars. Not everything from Star Wars connects with me 100%, but I always find the positive thing that I like out of everything. Not a big fan of Solo, but I do like things within Solo, so I prefer to look at the things that I like rather than the things that I hate. When I first walked in, I was in awe. I was in awe when I first walked in because it was this giant thing. Now, also, I want to let everybody know that I read the novel Black Spire. So I was very familiar with the setting when I was going in. I knew all about Savi's shop and Oga's Cantina and all this stuff to where the average Star Wars fan, if you don't read that novel, you might be a little lost. So I went in and the first thing that, I was just in awe of how big this thing was. Right? And I was still in awe. I was walking around Galaxy's Edge for hours. There was so much there. Not a whole much, not a lot to do, but so much there. There was so many different shops. Each shop was unique. It felt like you were going into a shop in this world rather than a gift shop. They had holocrons, Star Wars lightsabers. You had artifacts from Rebels like Hera's family heirloom. There was so much there to explore. And then we got to the Millennium Falcon, and we went on the Millennium Falcon ride. That was a 55-minute wait, so it wasn't that bad. And I got to go on the Millennium Falcon, which I think was the biggest childhood moment for me as a Star Wars fan. Just walking into the Millennium Falcon and just looking like I'm on the Millennium Falcon. Being able to sit down at the holo game table and sit around that whole table and just take it in. And then I was able to go in and pilot the Millennium Falcon. We got to see Hondo, who was really running the ride. Hondo, if you're a fan of Star Wars Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, Hondo is a pretty big character. And as a fan, I was just kind of in awe of being on the Millennium Falcon. Now, the Resistance ride isn't up yet. I did go on Star Tours, but Star Tours is sort of like on the outskirts of Galaxy's Edge. And then I just continued to go around. I had Blue Milk, which Blue Milk is completely not the way I thought Blue Milk was going to be. I thought it was going to be sort of like a vanilla almond milk type thing, where this is basically just a fruity slushy. So that was a little disappointing. You think blue milk and green milk, it would be milky. When I had that little debate discussion with Jeremy from Geeks+Gamers, he said, because he went before I did, he went like a month or so ago, and he said there's nothing Star Wars feeling about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And I kind of see his point, because if you are a Star Wars fan, or like a fan that just watches the movie, you don't read the new canon stuff or comics or anything, there's not really anything Star Wars there other than the Millennium Falcon. Everything else could have been taking place in a completely different world. Unless you read Black Spire, you don't know anything about Oga's Cantina and Savi's shop, and the fact that Savi ran with Lor San Tekka. You wouldn't know about all those connections unless you read the book. And I felt it was really weird. And I'm going to start making comparisons between Galaxy's Edge and the Harry Potter land at Universal. Harry Potter land, I feel, does a really good job of, you walk in it, you feel like you're there. You feel like you belong in the Harry Potter land. You go, you get your wand and so on. Where Galaxy's Edge, I don't understand what they were really trying to do. I think it would have been much smarter if they would have just said, hey, we're going to make this whole thing Mos Eisley. That would have been boss, right? That would have been boss as fuck, man. Instead of Batu and Black Spire and all this stuff, they just replicated Mos Eisley. And you had stormtroopers just going around. They're occupying Mos Eisley. You can walk into the cantina. You see all your characters. We don't serve your kind here. That would have been boss as fuck, right? Then you could have had R2-D2, C-3PO, Greedo, Han, and Chewie. That's something everybody knows, right? Everybody knows Mos Eisley. So that I thought that would have been a much better choice. Plus, it fits the California and Florida's heat atmosphere because it's always hot and humid. Having it in Mos Eisley would have been a much better thing because you could have also had the Millennium Falcon there because the Millennium Falcon was at Mos Eisley. That's when Obi-Wan and Luke went and took off. Having it in this new planet and this new outpost didn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know how much Batuu is going to factor in to episode 9, and I think they really handcuffed themselves by making this park canon. This park takes place on a day, and it's a day that takes place right after the novel of Black Spire. So Kylo Ren's there looking for the spy Vi Morani. That's great for me. I read the fucking book, but everybody else who didn't read the book has no idea. Like, what's going on? It's like you don't really catch a feel of Star Wars. Like, this could have been anything. You have the Millennium Falcon, you have the X-Wing, you have the TIE Fighter, which is all great. And then when we're waiting in line for the Millennium Falcon ride, who comes out of the Millennium Falcon? Rey. Like, why isn't Chewie coming out of the Millennium Falcon? Maybe he does later on, but at the time I was there, Rey comes out. And the thing is, you walk in this, and unlike the Harry Potter land, when you walk into Harry Potter, it feels like Harry Potter. You walk into Galaxy's Edge, you really don't feel Star Wars. So I kind of agree with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers on that aspect. You kind of have to be like really deep in the canon novels, and not everybody's a nerd like me. Not everybody's a nerd. No one's gonna, like maybe 5% of the people that ever go to Galaxy's Edge ever read Black Spire. And that's a high number. I would say it's less than 5. But when it came down to it, it's like, why did they decide to go a different route than go with something nostalgia? It's like, why didn't you just build Tatooine? Star Tours was around Tatooine. Like, when you go on Star Tours, the gift shop they had is based on a Tatooine shop. So why didn't they just focus instead of being on Batuu? And that's another thing. Olga's Cantina, you have to make a reservation to go. And in order to get in there, it's a 2-drink minimum. And we didn't go because I was dead tired. Our reservation wasn't until like 7:55 that night. We got there at 12, and it was like just really, the sun's just drawn on you, and it's really, really hot. And it was like, man, I really don't want to go to like, I wanted to go, but I didn't want to have to wait like 7 hours to get in there. And then in order to do anything, you're like, oh, you want to build the droid? You can build your own droid. It's $100 to build a custom BB unit that's like this fucking big. And that's like $100 or more to build your own lightsaber. It's like you have to drop a fortune to participate in these different activities. Whereas if this thing was just taken and it was put on Tatooine and Mos Eisley, you could have had multiple different cantinas, so you don't have to worry about filling shit up. You could have had, a shop where Luke is getting his power converters, and there's so much you could have done if you would have set it in a more recognizable location rather than saying, oh, this is a new planet with this new, Black Spire outpost. And I feel like that was a huge letdown. But another rumor was that it wasn't really populated, and it wasn't really that crowded. And I went to the Toy Story Land, and you could barely walk. You could barely walk through Toy Story Land. You go back to Galaxy's Edge, and you can pretty much walk pretty freely. I just think it was kind of a missed opportunity not having it set on a more known location that everybody knows. You shouldn't have to read a book or wait for episode 9 to find out more. That's just my opinion on it. But I want to know what you guys think. Have you been to Galaxy's Edge? Are you looking forward to going to Galaxy's Edge? Be sure to leave your comments in the comment box below. Until next time, as always, I'm Robert Storms, and that's my opinion.